Hey friends, welcome back to Word with Friends. It's your man PJ, and today we are going to finish part 2 of 2 of the webisode we call Scandal. We're just going to pick it up right where we left off. I'm telling you today that all of us are in this story. I mean, in reality, some of us just might be self-centered, arrogant jerks, but we don't commit sexual sin. Or we just might be those people who are trapped, people who don't want to get caught. All of us, though, are in this story. In John 8, the accusers say to Jesus, "What do you say?" See, they were using that question, though, as a basis to accuse him. Because in a very real sense, Jesus is damned if he does, and he's also damned if he doesn't. If he says the law is wrong, then he's a false prophet. If he says stoner, then he opposes Rome, and the only one who can say who lives or dies in Roman territory, which this is the Roman authority. I do want to point out, though, that Jesus doesn't say, "Don't kill her." He doesn't reject the law. God's holy and right punishment for all sin is death. That's for sins of a sexual nature as well as being self-righteous, all punishable by death. Honestly, I think that we have a very low view of God's tolerance for sin. It's kind of like God's given us this limitless credit card, and this limitless credit card is filled up with grace bucks. And when we blow it, boom, here it is, just put it on my card. Oops, the internet, boom, put it on my card. Oh, I kind of blew it with my girlfriend this week. Boom, put it on my card. So it becomes not about change, but about credit. Grace credit. But in doing this, we trample underfoot grace and we abuse grace. Now, I believe that this woman completely understood at this place the consequences of her sin as she is standing face to face with it. I do not get the impression that she was making excuses at this point. She wasn't there saying, "Oh, come on, man, for real? I mean, compared to so-and-so over there, I love him and, we want to get married." She's not thinking that. She's not thinking like this. She is very aware of the sin that she owns as well as the consequences of it. And I fear that that's an awareness that you and I need to become more familiar with. So the question becomes, do you or do you not agree with God when he says that it's a big deal? In verse 7, Jesus has a surprising response. He starts writing in the dirt. Frankly, we don't know what he wrote, and I'm not going to spend any time on that. As he's writing, though, he says, "Let you who has no sin throw the first rock." This statement comes from the Old Testament as well as the law of the rabbis. The way that that's supposed to go down is if you catch, per se, someone in a sin that is punishable by death, then you, as the person who caught them, has a right to bring them before the people and to begin and commence, if you will, the stoning. However, if you are guilty of the same sin to which you are condemning another to death, then you as well shall be condemned by stoning. So, Jesus just flips it on to them, and in doing so, he exposes them, and he exposes their messes, their own scandal, and he says what the law has to say about it. If you're without sin, then go ahead and execute this woman. So he doesn't really let this woman off the hook either. I mean, she's got to be over there thinking, "Oh my goodness, he just gave them permission to kill me." So she waits, hunched over, I'm sure, in some form probably like this, just in wait of that first rock to come flying at her. I'm guessing that at least some of the cats that were standing around with rocks in their hands at that point had committed sin with this very woman. So the rocks begin to drop, drop, drop. And I think that there's an important distinction here that John gives us as he says that the older men dropped their rocks first. See, the older we get, the more self-aware we become. And the longer we walk with Jesus, the more we realize how in need of his grace and his mercy that we actually are. I can't really blame the younger guys though. I mean, it'd be easier to do that, but I can't because 19, 25, got it all figured out. But in reality, they just haven't figured out who they are. They don't know themselves very well yet. Nor have they noticed that there's not a great deal of distance between them and this woman. So Jesus is saying, yeah, go ahead, kill her. But you have to be righteous in order to do it. And as it were, none of these men who had been hurling accusations was any more righteous than this woman. And they came face to face with that fact, and no one hurled a rock. Listen, as you walk with God, you should be becoming more and more aware of your own propensity to sin. And in doing that, compassion should begin to well up and spring up and flow from you for the broken. I can tell you this much. If you're in a place today where you have a rock in your hand and you're judging others who've been caught in their scandal, you've missed something. And you don't know yourself very well. My point today that I want to finish with is this. The proper response to the grace and forgiveness that God has freely given to you is that you have compassion for people. Live well and follow love. Holla!
Holla, holla, holla. Life goes on, long after the days of living are gone. Holla, holla, holla. Life goes on, long after the days of living are gone. La la la.